something is seriously wrong with Meghan, and I think that's why Harry has found himself in so much trouble now, even financially, because of the lies, the spins, just nothing is...
I'm talking about the odd way that she is choosing to raise her family. Dogs on private jets, if we are to believe the house in disguises. This from Rob Shooter of Shooter's Scoop, who says this is the Duchess of Sussex's weird new secret.
Something is happening in Montecito that should tell you everything you need to know about where Meghan Markle's head is right now. Not the jam, not the wine, not the lifestyle brand or the Netflix deal or the As Ever collection. Something stranger. Something that, when you hear it, makes you stop and ask a very serious question about the woman who spent years telling the world.
YouTube sensation P. Diner now. So, P. Diner, can we just talk about some of this very odd behavior?
She was a confident, empowered, unbothered duchess who did not care what anyone thought of her. Meghan Markle is leaving her house in disguise. Wigs, baseball caps, oversized sweatshirts, baggy pants, sunglasses large enough, as one source put it, to qualify as home security systems, according to royal reporter Rob Shooter, whose sourcing inside the Sussex world is considered among the most reliable in the business.
From Montecito to Portugal and then the United Kingdom. Are we really meant to believe that?
The Duchess of Sussex has become so committed to flying under the radar that disguises are now a regular part of every single time she ventures beyond the gates of the couple's Montecito estate. And the question that every royal commentator worth their salt is now asking is this: why? Clip 1, start 0000 to 000145. Use this clip at the very beginning. P. Diner's sharp analysis of the disguise story and what it really reveals about Meghan's state of mind and her brand delusion. Key quote: something is seriously wrong with Meghan. And I think that's why Harry has found himself in so much trouble now, even financially, because of the lies, the spins. Just nothing is legit with them. Here is the thing about the disguise story that nobody in the mainstream press wants to say plainly. If Meghan Markle were genuinely trying to move around unnoticed, she would not be telling anyone about it. The entire point of a disguise is that it works quietly, invisibly, without commentary. You put on the wig, you go to the grocery store, you come home. Nobody knows. Nobody reports it. Nobody writes about it. But we know about it. We are talking about it right now because Meghan's team told us about it. Sources described as people close to the Duchess spoke to Rob Shooter in detail about the wigs, the caps, the oversized clothing, the sunglasses. They described the routine. They explained the motivation. They gave the whole operation a narrative. That is not privacy. That is a press release about privacy. And it tells you something very important about where the Sussex brand is right now and what Meghan thinks is going to rescue it. She is not hiding. She is performing hiding. And the audience she is performing for is the same audience she has always performed for: the global media, the social platforms, the comment sections, the royal YouTube channels, the tabloids and the broadsheets and the celebrity gossip outlets that have been writing about her for 8 years. She wants to be talked about. She needs to be talked about. Because right now, without the talking, the brand goes silent. And silence for Meghan Markle in 2025
is about all these different stories being placed here just to give her some kind of, credibility with, her status.
Do you think that actually it didn't work out for her in a way not being photographed when she was in the UK? Because I always believe she
is the most dangerous thing in the world. Now let us add another layer, because the disguise story arrived in the same week as the revelation that Meghan apparently used a private jet to transport her dog from Montecito to Portugal and then to the United Kingdom, a private jet, for a dog, at a time when credible reporting suggests the Sussex finances are under serious strain, when the As Ever brand is struggling to generate meaningful sales, when the Netflix deal has expired and no significant new commercial partnership has been announced. And here is the delicious irony. The same week that the dog on a private jet story broke, it also emerged that the newly appointed director of Harry's travel sustainability charity Travelist had been on record comparing flying, not private jet flying, just flying in general, to drink driving. His argument being that in a few decades, the casual act of boarding a plane will be regarded with the same social horror that we now attach to getting behind the wheel after 5 drinks. Harry remains connected to Travelist. Harry, whose family apparently just crossed the Atlantic on private jets with the family dog. And his new director thinks flying is basically drunk driving. Clip 2, before invo 0 to Locan 30. Use this clip after the disguise and private jet section. P. Diner on why Harry seems completely lost. He doesn't know what his work is.
His branding contradicts his life.
And Meghan is managing him into chaos. Key quote, Harry seems so confused to me about his own life. The branding doesn't make sense. The way he lives his life. His speeches, they don't measure up. He doesn't even know what his work is. He doesn't even mention it. Harry is in a situation that he needs to get out of. Everything has gone downhill for him since leaving the royal family. He needs to be rescued. He needs to be saved. It's an emergency. An emergency. That is the word being used by people who have watched this couple closely for years. Not a crisis. Not a difficult period. An emergency. Because the gap between how Harry and Meghan present themselves to the world. The sustainability advocates, the mental health champions, the privacy-protecting parents, the social justice warriors, and how they actually live their lives has now become so wide that it is almost impossible to bridge. Harry talks about the environment and flies, dogs across the Atlantic on private jets. He talks about mental health and makes increasingly erratic public statements that alarm even his supporters. He talks about family privacy and then leaks details of his father's reunion to People magazine and the Sunday Mirror within 48 hours of the meeting ending. He says he has put down his legal fists and then appears on the front page of a Sunday newspaper, making clear he intends to keep fighting the British government. Nothing lines up. Nothing is coherent. And at the center of all the incoherence is a woman who, according to multiple sources, has been managing Harry's narrative, his public image, and his professional decisions for years. Now let us talk about Australia. Because Meghan's guest appearance on MasterChef, Australia this week has generated headlines for all the wrong reasons. And the backstage story is significantly worse than what made it onto the broadcast. The clip of Meghan saying, "I grew up in California.
We have incredible produce. My mom's an incredible cook.
I grew up watching cooking shows." Then in the same interview saying, "I was a latchkey kid. I grew up with fast food and TV tray dinners. Microwavable kids' meals. I taught myself how to cook." Watch that clip. Watch it carefully, because in the space of a single television interview, Meghan Markle managed to contradict herself so completely and so openly that the only rational response is to stare at the screen and try to understand how someone does that without apparently noticing. In one breath, California produce, farm to table, incredible mother, cooking shows, a childhood steeped in fresh ingredients and culinary appreciation. In the next breath, latchkey kid, fast food, TV tray dinners, microwavable compartmentalized meals with a tiny section of apple crumble, Polo Loco, Taco Bell with extra hot sauce on the Mexican pizza, Jack in the Box because her mom loved their tacos, taught herself to cook. Those are not two versions of the same childhood. Those are two entirely different childhoods, and Meghan told both of them in the same interview without appearing to register that the second one completely demolished the first. This is not a small thing. This is not a slip of the tongue or a minor inconsistency or a memory that got blurred over time. This is someone who has built an entire lifestyle brand, as ever. The jam, the honey, the garden, the farm fresh. California aesthetic, not a personal narrative about her, relationship with food and cooking and home. And in a single television appearance, that narrative fell apart in real time. But the contradictions in what Meghan said on camera were, according to insiders, only the beginning of the MasterChef Australia story. By the end of the day, everyone was just praying for the taping to be over. People are talking about the royalty comment, but that was the least of the crew's concerns. She carried herself like she was Julia Roberts arriving to shoot a blockbuster. The team has worked with award winners, world-famous chefs, and global stars. They've never experienced anything quite like this. Julia Roberts. That is who Meghan apparently believed she was walking onto that set as. Julia Roberts arriving to shoot a blockbuster at MasterChef Australia, a cooking competition program. According to multiple production sources speaking to Rob Shooter, Meghan arrived with an extensive list of requests and an expectation that every aspect of the production would revolve around her needs. Cast and crew were left exhausted. Some privately described her as one of the most demanding celebrity guests the long-running series has ever hosted. A series that has worked with world-famous chefs, award-winning personalities, and genuinely global stars. When the taping ended, there was reportedly an audible sigh of relief from the production team. And the report notes something that should give any future production partner serious pause, even now. Mentioning her name around the MasterChef production office makes some crew members tense up. Think about what that means for the Sussex commercial strategy. The entire argument for booking Meghan Markle the reason any production company would invite her onto their show, the reason any brand would consider a partnership, the reason any publisher would discuss a deal is that she brings attention, goodwill, and a kind of cultural cachet associated with her royal connection. She's supposed to be an asset, a draw, someone whose involvement makes the product more valuable. But if the crew is counting the minutes until she leaves, if production insiders are describing her appearance as a much bigger headache than anticipated, if mentioning her name causes tension in the office weeks after the fact, then she is not an asset. She is a liability. And the entertainment industry, which runs on relationships and reputation and the willingness of crews to work long hours without complaint, has a very long memory. Now let us come to the story that, in the view of many royal commentators, has been significantly underplayed by the mainstream press. Oprah Winfrey. I want it to be a win-win for you. So I was just trying to carefully go through everything that had come up in the past. Then, were you silent or were you silenced? Followed by Oprah admitting, I don't think I've done it since. I don't know where the hell that came from. Win-win. That is the phrase that should stop every person who watched the Oprah interview in 2021 and took it seriously. Win-win. Oprah has now admitted in a Vanity Fair interview published this week that she told Harry and Meghan before the interview began that she wanted it to be a win for them, a win for Oprah. She was going through everything that had come up in the past and she wanted everyone to come out of it well. That is not journalism. That is collaboration. That is a television personality with enormous global influence sitting down with two people who wanted to cause maximum damage to the British royal family and telling them in advance that she was on their side, that she wanted them to win, that the interview was designed to produce a favorable outcome for them. And then came the moment that Oprah herself now seems embarrassed by. The moment she looked at Meghan and asked, were you silent or were you silenced? Watch that clip again. Watch Oprah's face in the Vanity Fair interview as she describes asking that question. Watch the body language, the slight wince, the way she says she does not know where that came from, that she has not done it since. That is not the demeanor of a journalist proud of a sharp follow-up question. That is the demeanor of someone who knows, with the clarity of hindsight, that she pushed a subject to make a claim she cannot now substantiate, and that the consequences of that push have been felt by real people. We have to remember, during the time of the wedding, she was already colluding with Meghan about this interview. So there was always this idea to bring down the royals via Meghan and her disappointment with the royals. Before anything had even happened, Oprah was planning this with Meghan in their secret talks. Oprah is embarrassed now because the truth has finally come out about who Meghan truly is. The wedding was in May 2018. The Oprah interview aired in March 2021, nearly 3 years apart. And yet the reporting now suggests that conversations between Oprah and Meghan about the interview, about what would be said, what would be covered, what narrative would be built, were happening before the wedding itself. Before Meghan was even officially a member of the British royal family. Before the tiara incident, before the bullying allegations, before the South Africa tour, before any of the events that Meghan would later describe as the reasons she felt she had no choice but to leave. If those conversations were happening before the wedding, then the interview was not a response to events. It was a plan that preceded the events it was supposedly describing, and the events were then shaped and selected and framed to fit the story that had already been decided. That is not journalism. That is not even storytelling. That is the construction of a false narrative, assembled with deliberate care, designed to do maximum damage to a family and an institution that has existed for 1,000 years. But the body language says what the words will not. Oprah Winfrey knows. She has always known. And the interview that was supposed to be Meghan Markle's triumphant declaration of freedom has become, 5 years on, one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of American television journalism. Here is where we are. Meghan is leaving the house in wigs. Harry is running a sustainability charity while apparently flying dogs across the Atlantic on private jets. The MasterChef crew was counting the minutes until she left. The As Ever brand is struggling. The Netflix numbers are falling. The Oprah interview has been exposed as a planned operation. And the woman at the center of all of it is performing invisibility for a press that is slowly, finally, beginning to see through every layer of the performance. The question is not whether the truth is coming out. It is. The question is whether it is coming out fast enough to matter, and whether the people inside Buckingham Palace who have the power to do something about it are paying attention. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did Oprah knowingly help Meghan construct a false narrative against the royal family? And what does it tell you that she is only now showing discomfort about it 5 years later? Subscribe for daily royal coverage, because this story is far from finished.